Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Monday episode of Diaries.
Hey, what's up? Hey.
So just before we start, a little disclaimer that we will not be doing an episode for you guys next week because we are all taking some time to be with our families for Thanksgiving, and we just don't have the time to record. But that's okay because the week after we will be back and we'll have 2 weeks of cool stuff to fill you in on.
Yeah, I can't wait for Thanksgiving. I'm super excited. So I can't wait to get back to you guys and back to our podcast. Do you actually celebrate Thanksgiving, or do you just skip and go straight to Christmas?
Normally, I celebrate Thanksgiving, and the day after Thanksgiving is when Christmas starts because I wait for Santa to come down 34th Street on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But since Thanksgiving is a week later this year, we have a week less in between. So Chris and I have already set up the tree, and Christmas is active in our household.
Us too. We set up the salon Christmas, but we get a real tree. So we didn't want like too much time to pass in between and it be dead by Christmas. So we're going to go out of town for Thanksgiving and then come back and get the real tree.
Fun.
Yeah. It sounds like so much fun. I don't have a tree up. I don't ever put up a tree at my
You
house.
don't?
No.
Why?
I never put up a tree. I just don't. I don't know. I never had, well, many years ago, but that was when I was in a relationship. So we're celebrating Thanksgiving. We're going on a cruise. Then we come back and celebrate Christmas.
I'm sure the cruise will be decorated with Christmas trees galore, so you'll be Christmas treed out.
I like any excuse to put things that light up in my house. What's your favorite Christmas carol, Gina? Christmas carol? Oh my gosh, that's tough. I like all of them. I mean, favorite Christmas album is the Mariah Carey Christmas album, and I'm going to her concert. I want to go to her concert. It's on my to go to. My favorite Christmas song is Silent Night. That's one of mine.
That's cute. I'm going to copy Gina's answer and say the Mariah Carey Christmas. I just love Christmas music. I could listen to it all year, so.
We have that, and then they're doing Elf at the Symphony.
Fun.
They'll play movies at the Symphony, and then the Symphony will play the soundtrack as the movie plays.
You're so musical lately, Gina. You want to tell everyone about what you did this week?
Oh, yeah. I went to the CMAs. That was so fun. Everyone's like, who performed? Like, who didn't perform? It was crazy. It's a setup, too. I think we took probably the best photo we've ever taken because we went to the after party and they put out the big, like, CMAs. It looks like you're, like, walking the red carpet. And then you could take a photo and they take a professional photo and, like, print it off for you. And I was like, oh, we look like celebs.
Yeah, you did in that green dress.
You are a celebrity.
D-list. That too.
D-list. Yeah, I had a lot of showroom dresses this week. We went to a wedding, too, and I wore another showroom gown yesterday. We love to see it. Shout out to the showroom for always having the best dresses ever in life. You look amazing. You're like a green goddess. Everyone's going to see this face and be like, here's the no makeup version of us.
Looks just as beautiful. We are all natural, and that's just what it's going to be because who has time for makeup? Well, yesterday, Chris and I went to go see Wicked, which I was hesitant about because the play is so epic, and I was just doubting Ariana Grande having the same comedic presence as Kristen Chenoweth, but it was phenomenal.
Did she?
She was not Kristen Chenoweth, but no one is, so I'm giving her grace, and she did a phenomenal job. I mean, the chemistry between all the actresses, actors, dancers, choreographers, singers was phenomenal. And this morning I woke up and Chris was humming Popular. He's like, It's like, oh, so someone likes musicals. And he said every time he looked over at me, I was just smiling like a big kid with just joy in my heart and eyes. And it was great, except the girl sitting next to me, because there's always someone. She had one of those Slurpee icy things. And she got to the very bottom of it and was slurping. She was shaking. She was crushing this cup, trying to get every last sip. And even her mom was like, there's nothing left in your cup. And I didn't say anything because I was just enjoying my movie. But it's hard to enjoy your favorite musical when you hear slurp, crush. But everything else was great.
I'm proud of you for not releasing the Karen.
Thank you.
I had a ton of time in the car yesterday because I did a wedding that was at Greystone Quarry, which is like out in Franklin. The bride is one of my clients and friends, so I picked up a groom's cake for her. So I went there, then to Franklin, hauled it back home to get ready and pick my man up and then go back to the wedding and then come back home. So I spent a ton of time in the car yesterday and I listened to the sermon that Kirsten sent me, which was so good. And then the whole entire soundtrack of Wicked.
That sounds like the best car ride ever.
It really made it.
I love a good sermon and I love a good soundtrack. I would love to go see Wicked.
I have notifications set for us to see it at Soho House.
Well, we'll just go next weekend. So Gina, you had weddings, and that brings us to our naturally favorite topic, Married at First Sight. We are changing the format a little bit for you guys this week because we've found that, as you guys probably know, we can jibber jabber and talk and talk and talk for hours on end, but we don't want this to be your traditional recap podcast. There are plenty of great ones out there, and if you want to know which ones, DM us and we'll let you know our favorites. But we want to give you more about our experiences and less about what we think is going on because truly, we don't know. The only people that know are the people in the couples. So the first topic I'd love us to dive into is, this actually came up from MM and Akechi because they were talking about how they grew up in, like, her family was not super affectionate growing up and the I love yous were really hard to come by, and how he was essentially out of the house at 16 and he had to always fend for himself. So this brought up a really interesting topic about how you're raised and the household you come from goes into your relationships. Like, I know for me personally, I always joke that I was loved too much as a child because my parents are so affectionate, always hugging me, always with the mwah and the I love yous. So with my family, I'm naturally very affectionate, but with other people, I find very guarded against them because I'm like, you're not my family. So it's something I didn't discover until I got married because I was like, why am I finding it so hard to be affectionate with you? Like, because you're not family in my book yet. But what do you guys think about the whole, how your upbringing goes into your relationship?
I definitely feel like it transitions over into your relationships. I know with my last relationship, my ex, he told me that I was not affectionate enough. And I do feel like when I was growing up, like, we didn't have enough affection in the household. So then it transferred over into like our adulthood in our relationships. And it's something that I work on in my current relationship to make for sure that I'm always showing affection, and you can show affection in different ways. It can be physical or verbal. So I definitely feel like I've improved on showing affection in my relationship. But I can understand how, with MM and Akechi, like, you have to just get to know your partner. And then that way, if they want to improve on that, then they can. But it's understandable.
My mom was pretty affectionate, but I grew up with a single mom. So I never had a dad around. So it was like a little awkward to get used to like that type of physical affection. My mom was always, we've always said I love you, been like huggers, all of that. So that's easy. But I think I always subconsciously just as a kid had that guard up with guys. And so I had to learn that and be mindful of that affection too. It is interesting. I know that definitely transcends into your adulthood from a kid. Have you guys done the love language like test before?
No.
Have you read the book, Kirsten?
No, I have not read the book.
It's actually really good. It dives into like the 5 love language, and physical touch is like, wow, like very bottom for me. So I'm a words of encouragement. I think that's how I show affection most of the time. But I don't know. I think I just have to get super comfortable before I am physically affectionate. And then I'm like better with it.
I understand that. I feel like my love language is quality time. I know that's my love language. I enjoy spending quality time with my family. I enjoy spending quality time with my friends. Like, that means the world to me because I feel like time is something you can't get back. And like during quality time, you get to make memories.
Yeah, I feel like my love languages differ between friends and relationships because with Chris, for example, obviously I want all the love languages and I am very needy in that sense, but I love quality time with him because I can be around him and be silent and be okay. But with friends, I love quality time, but I prefer like words of affirmation from friends, and not necessarily just affirmation, but like talking to my friends, just having those conversations, checking in, knowing we're still there for each other. Because I find with friends, if I'm with you guys, I don't want to sit in a room in silence. I want to talk to you and catch up. But with Chris, his physical presence is what really does it for me. And talking is almost that extra benefit. Like we could just lay there in bed snuggling and not saying anything. And that's fulfilling. Gina, as you were talking, I was thinking, do you think you gravitated towards the field you're in, which is very women-centric, because you were raised by a very affectionate single mom? Like you were drawn to less of a corporate environment that's like male-focused and more of like loving female business type?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I've just naturally always been more comfortable with women because I've always been around women. And then my mom worked in a salon. She did nails in a tanning salon when tanning was like really popular. And so half of the salon was nail stations, and then the other half was like 15 tanning beds. So I would go in and like clean the tanning beds and hang out at the front desk and just was super comfortable with like all the clients and stuff.
I just love, Gina, how you're passionate about what you do and being able to educate women and always educating yourself. You're extremely passionate about what you do. And so like Ikechi had got very emotional on the episode. He was like in tears because he loves being an educator and he feels like education is power, and he's able to like teach people and raise these children to be, you know, a successful person. So it does make a difference when you're like passionate about what you do. Ikechi was just talking about how he was raised and how he likes to make an impact on people's lives. And like for me, I was raised in a lower income family when my parents split apart when I was 8 years old. So it definitely resonated as far as like just being able to teach people about like how to invest in real estate and how real estate can create generational wealth and like how you can have a better future. Like the more you know, the better off you are. So I can definitely understand, like I enjoy hearing people's walk of life because we all have a different journey in life. And, you know, I just truly admire people when they're super passionate.
I appreciate that. That's sweet.
I love that and Ikechi are already getting to the crust and really having those deep conversations, because I think in this process, it helps to just lay it all out there from the start, because they're really going to have that closer connection, which it seems like they already have, because is basically the voice of reason at this point. You know, she's giving Michelle a lot of good advice. And as we also know, we could have a whole series on David and Michelle, but I think there's a lot we're not seeing, truthfully. I think we're seeing the gist of it, but I'm just going to say this, my opinion. I don't think Michelle should have gone on the show because she's probably lovely, but I think she wants to be someone who's open and who can be a little bit more communicative and can compromise, but not everyone is, and that's totally fine. But I just don't think she should have been on the show. And at the end of the day, I think that's the major problem here.
Yeah, David tries to communicate, and we all know how it goes in a relationship sometimes when you're just not interested in someone, you know, based on their background.
We sure do.
Yeah, we know all about it. And so it's totally okay. And we know that this is a pressure cooker, and we know that it's going to take time. Like, she's having a hard couple of weeks, which is understandable. She married a stranger. Like, she wouldn't go out and talk to a man who was David. You know what I'm saying? So she's taking it all in. It's taking time, and it's just so fast paced. But I just want to talk about also when we were on Married at First Sight, like I had a breakout session with Aries, and we talked about his marriage. And then Jasmine and Shaquille talked about our marriage. So I don't know if that's helpful. I feel like it was helpful for David and Madison to talk about what was going on in their marriages, because they were both struggling, you know, to make for sure, like, how can I become more interested in my partner? Because both of them were struggling with those pieces. So sometimes I feel like those conversations can be beneficial just so you can vent to someone that's in the same situation as you. Because like you said, Nicole, we don't know what's going on with that cast, but they know what's going on amongst each other.
Right.
So I do think sometimes, I know I never liked meeting up in groups, and sometimes I didn't like talking about other people in our marriages because we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the cameras are showing. So I just feel like it can be tough. And Gina, you can weigh in on this as far as like being able to vent to friends and like to us, you know, when it came to the marriage, and how you feel if it's beneficial for like David and Madison to talk about what's going on in their situations.
I think for sure, because it can be really lonely. And when you're feeling forced, it makes things so much worse. It's almost like you're feeling forced by production or by the process in itself to be like, oh, well, I have to love this person right now because we're married and that's what's expected of me. And it's like this forced feeling that almost makes it worse. And that's all you can think about is like, well, I don't. And now I feel like I'm a bad person because I don't, rather than you just being able to be like, okay, well, I don't right now, but like we're doing a good job. We're still giving it our all and we're still trying. So I know Clint and I both had to get there like together and be like, okay, this is okay. Like this is a very quick process. It's okay that we're not like head over heels in love and wanting to move in and like checking off all of the boxes. It's like we're doing the best we can in the circumstance. And we knew that that's the risk, is that you're not going to 100% know that you are meant for this person until you give it a try.
I agree. And I feel like that's what Michelle is going through. And when you say the word force, I feel like that's exactly what's happening. It's force and pressure, and those two are not a good mixture at all. So I can understand. And it's overwhelming. We all know that. It's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
The filming process, the work, trying to navigate a stranger in a marriage, that's overwhelming. And all of us can relate to that.
Like with Nicole, you can explain like how it's probably even overwhelming for you, and you and Chris really liked each other. It's like so overwhelming going through that process. So it's like to not have that attraction piece with the person, it's like torture almost half the time. You're like, I just want to disappear. I'm feeling every day like I'm letting everyone around me down, including the person I'm with, just by something that I can't control.
And honestly, I resonated so much with Michelle when she was on the boat, and she was like, I just want to have a chill day.
I just want to relax.
She was like, I just want to have a light day. And I felt that.
I feel like this kind of relates to what we were talking about before with the love languages, where it's communication style, because Michelle, and everything I say is based on just what I see, her communication style seems to be give me my space so I can think about what's happening and I can relay what I want to say back to you. Whereas David's communication style is like, let's get ahead of this. Let's not make a big deal about it. Let's just talk about it. It's all out on the table. Neither communication style is right or wrong. They're just different. So when Michelle was saying, I need space, she was saying, like, get away from me. I don't want anyone near me. I want my time. Totally respect that. And I don't think David was disrespecting her, but his communication style is like, I don't want to give you space because I want to make sure you know I'm there for you. And I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you or not respecting that you're upset. So I think that is really hard. For Chris and I, we actually had a talk that was filmed and they showed it. And of course, it was edited to make me look like I was certifiably insane. But my style is like, I want to talk about anything and everything. But if I truly need the space to think about something, I will take my space. I will remove myself. I will give myself the space, mental or physical, that I need. But otherwise, I want to talk about it. So I was telling Chris, like, if I say I need space, but I don't take it, it's really me saying, I need you to comfort me without me feeling comfortable enough to say that. Because at that point in our marriage, I didn't have that comfort level with him. So he, of course, was confused. He's like, so when you say space, you don't want space. I was like, yeah, if I say like, oh, I just need like 5 minutes, please don't talk to me, I need him to be like, okay, but I'm here. But if I need space, like I'm getting out of the house, I'm getting in my car, I'm going somewhere, I'm cooling off. So I think for them, it's just a matter of them having two completely different needs. And Michelle's not going to get what she needs on the show because cameras are going to be up her ass 24/7 for 12 weeks. So I think that's a lot of what's happening too, is she's not getting that space she so desperately needs. And I get it for her, for you, I get it. But we signed up for a show. So it's like, you can't also expect them to leave you alone for 2 days and be like, all right, you want space? Cool.
I think it's also the situation of they've now, it's like once production figures out the narrative, that's the narrative that's forced. And so it's like you go into something thinking like there's going to be different concepts that you're talking about and stuff, where it's like they were probably on to how she's reacting and how she is. So then they're just like making it even worse. And
Yeah.
she's feeling like stuck. At least that's how I felt. I was like, God, I can't even like be myself now because this is what we have to talk about. And this is what we're going through every single day. And I'm ready to like move on to something different.
I dislike that so much because she was actually crying, like, and she just keeps having these breakdowns, and I feel bad for her Because it's like we all have our moments, Nicole and Gina, like where we all just feel like we need to take a break, not just only with filming, but in life in general. Like we go through our moments where we feel so overwhelmed. And I definitely appreciate you, Nicole, for like telling us how you handle those moments. Because for me, it's very rare. Like I try to keep my stress levels so low to the fact to where I don't even make it to my stages where I'm crying. Because if I make it to that stage, that means I did not de-escalate my stress, if that makes any sense. Like I did not take those moments where I didn't realize I needed that break. So I really think it's very important when you realize like, okay, mentally give me 5 minutes. And like you're telling someone how you need those 5 minutes to look. And at that moment when Michelle was explaining to David, like, this is what it looks like when I need these moments. She was like, I don't need you texting me and asking me every 5 minutes where I am. She was like, when I'm done cooling off with that time, I'm coming back to you. But it's so hard to understand that when you don't know somebody.
Right.
Like you didn't know that. And like you said, Nicole, but you want Chris to say, I'll sit here with you and I'll hold your hand until you're ready, until you're done. But she didn't need him to hold her hand and text her and follow back up with her. And that's just him being the teddy bear that he is and being the kind man that he is. But we all need our breaks in different ways. So I just do feel like it's very important to know like how people handle, and that's something that you can ask in marriages or relationships when you first meet someone, like how do you handle stress? Like when you are having a challenging moment in life, what does that look like on a daily? Like, do you need an ice cold beer and your favorite show ready? Or do you need a good meal ready? Or do you need your feet rubbed? What does that look like to help you calm down in those moments? So I think that's very important to have those conversations with your partners so they know what it looks like.
These are the questions we need to be asking on day one, because all they're going to have is challenges. And if you don't know how to even get through those challenges, it's just setting them up for failure. But I don't know. Also, where are the experts?
That was going to be my next question. And it makes me so upset because I'm like, why is the producer making an appearance to try to help calm her down? But that's all she has there. Like the producer literally had to step in.
Shout out Gwen.
Shout out Gwen.
That's my girl. For the listeners, that was my producer. So
She's used to honeymoon mishaps.
But yeah, I think it's super important for the experts, like moving forward, if they continue to have Married at First Sight, I think it's extremely important. We should have like a consultation with the experts when we arrive.
like a checklist. Yeah, this is what you
Yeah.
need to do in the beginning.
Yes.
Like marriage counseling every week.
Marriage counseling should be done the first day of the honeymoon, in my opinion. Like if I can lay out a new format for them for honeymoon, it would be stop one, grab your toast and go see the experts as soon as you get off the shuttle bus, because it's going to be moments every time and they should be meeting with experts every single day. So the experts need to be there.
Well, that would just be way too logical.
Well, if they were able, they meaning the couples, if they were able to say, here's my initial either hesitation or something I'm super excited about that I've learned from the wedding, the experts could help. Where do you go from there? Like if it's the attraction issue, well, here are things you can do on your honeymoon that could potentially help that. Or I don't like that he lives in a basement, whatever. Here are things you could do. Or even if it's like, I'm so into this person, it's like, well, here are ways that you can build on that without forgetting to get all of the other information that you need to get. There are people who are so hot and heavy on the honeymoon and then they get back to reality. It's like, well, we didn't have any of these conversations and now life is real. So I do feel like having a little roadmap of here's where you go from day one would be helpful, because you see so many couples get back from the honeymoon and it's already over. Even if it's not officially over, the honeymoon can either make or break a lot of these couples.
They need to hire us.
Seriously.
Listen, we'll travel to honeymoons and be there to be a helping hand.
We're like inconspicuous in sunglasses.
Like, what's going on in their relationship? Oh, what's going on over here? Okay, we probably need to step in. They need a little help over there.
We're like hiding, like lurking in the corner.
I would love to talk about some of my favorite moments from this episode. Juan and Carla are very entertaining. They are so funny. When Carla, it kind of goes back to what you were saying just a few minutes ago, Nicole, when you're like, people don't get all the information up front. But Juan said that he was like, in some of my relationships, we became intimate before we got to know each other. And that's why he's had so many failed relationships. And when they were getting a massage, he was like, oh my gosh, I saw him just bracing himself. I can tell like he was ready. Like he was so ready. I'm like, who wouldn't be after a massage? But I also love when they're like jumping off the boats because we had moments where we had a really good time with each other. And like when they were on the boat and they were jumping off the boat and they were capturing moments where they were under the sea. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like I'm loving all of this. So those are like some of my highlight moments from this episode. It's just them having a good time, enjoying each other, having great conversations because sometimes it just does get a little
Heavy,
stressful and heavy. Yeah.
Overwhelming.
even as a viewer. And with the massage scene with Carla and Juan, I thought that was a good example of they're trying to get to know each other. I mean, you can see the chemistry is there. And Chris and I had that exact conversation on our, maybe not exact because I didn't call his penis a magic wand, but we had a similar conversation where we knew the attraction was there, but we didn't want to act on it yet because we said, what if that becomes the main focus? Like, oh, we're really into each other and everything else is okay, because you can be so blinded by the attraction. So I like that they're acknowledging the fact that they're attracted to each other. So there's no question there, but they haven't acted on it yet. So I think it is interesting. This is why I love when we have these talks, because you get the different perspectives of couples who were not as into each other on the honeymoon and couples who were into each other. And I know for Chris and I, a lot of the conversations we had, looking back now, I'm like, all right, maybe there were things I should have dug into a little deeper. But at the time, I was so happy and I was okay with the conversation that I didn't want to potentially dig deeper and then find out something I wasn't okay with. And we had so many deep conversations that I felt like we hit our quota. We needed to start having fun. So I do like that Carla and Juan are not putting their attraction first, and they are having those conversations of like, what does our future look like, and finances. And honestly, I think a lot of their conversations are like, we just don't know each other yet.
I feel like in relationships, you definitely have to do what works best for your relationship. And then it also depends on what season you're in. Like if one person can afford to buy tickets or pay for travel, then that's that person. And I feel like if one person wants to take someone out to dinner, you can. But it just depends on like, okay, we have this conversation and we have a better understanding of what it's going to look like for this season for us and who may do whatever they want to do. So I love that Carla and Juan are having those conversations. But I don't know what was going on with Carla on that ride to the place, what for destination they were going to when she was on that bus. I was like, Carla, you're wilding out. What are you talking about?
She is a free spirit.
She is, but everybody was like, where's Juan? Like basically, Juan, get your wife because she is a little loose tongue right now. I was like, Carla, honey,
No filter.
I love her. Do you think for the two of you, your current relationships are so strong because you did give yourselves that opportunity to get to know your partners? I mean, you both knew them for a while before being in your current relationships, and it wasn't just attraction first, get to know each other later?
I think it is really funny that my relationship on the show was so much on physical attraction, because I've known my current boyfriend for 12 years. And we were friends first, and then I became physically attracted to him. So it just proves that like that definitely can grow. But it took several years of me getting to know him before. I mean, now we're super physically attracted to one another. I'm like always touching him and stuff. But I never even thought about that for several years of hanging out with him. And we would even go on dates and stuff, and it still like wasn't a thing. So I don't know. I think that is really interesting. It helps that we built such a long-standing friendship. We weren't like super, super close friends. We would talk, every 6 months or so, but he was also my banker too. So it's like we would sit down for business meetings. So he was like a big fan of my business, but then I don't know, we would all hang out in the same like friend group. So we knew that we had a lot of things in common from a friendship standpoint. And then we finally dove into a relationship.
Do you think being on Married at First Sight helped you kind of get rid of any blockers you might have even subconsciously been having towards a relationship with him?
I think that was the main takeaway that I had from the show. Because like I said earlier, I was constantly surrounded by like female and women and grew up with a single mom. So I never really saw that version of like a super healthy marriage as a child. My mom's been married now for like 25 years. So she started dating my stepdad when I was like 11 or 12. But prior to that, I definitely had those blocks and like fears of being in a relationship. And I think the show forced us so much to talk about relationships, and you're like gaining insight from all your friends, like you guys, your relationships. And so I think subconsciously I was learning like how to communicate and how to truly figure out what I need. Because I think it's easy to make that list that everyone has of like, I want someone that's honest and someone that can communicate and someone that's faithful, like all those very vague things that you look for in a relationship. But hadn't truly like done the introspective work to really know what I need. And I don't think it was until my relationship where my partner is like giving me things that I need that I don't even know that I need, which is interesting. It's like you don't even realize that till you're in a relationship. Like the fact that he cooks for me every night, like the man like makes me eat. And that is about me. It's not about him. It's like him being intentional with me, or just little things. Like he definitely gives me my space. He's very patient with me. All these things I didn't realize that I needed so much.
I love that.
I do too. My brother and I talk about that now, like our needs that we're older, like in our 30s versus what we needed when we were younger. It looks totally different. Like you said, he gives you patience. He cooks for you. That's super important. Like I feel like for the relationship that I am right now, I feel like my biggest need was always just that emotional support. Like I need you to be here for me, and I want to be here for you. Like having that emotional support is super important, because that also just continues to build the friendship and the relationship. Because I also feel like when you're in a relationship, it's also good to be friends as well, because it's like a different level of love. And I also feel like it's a different level of loyalty too, because it's like you wouldn't want to ever betray your friend. So it's like you have a certain type of respect for your partner. So just being able to have those fun moments and also have those serious moments makes the relationship like better. So I'm definitely grateful for the man that I'm dating, because he understands me and he allows me to be myself, and he allows me to have my moments. He also allows me to have my space when I need it. So if I feel like I want to have a very energetic day, he lets me do that. Like I am pumped. I have tons of energy, and he lets me be a jibber jabber. And I'm like, I know I've been talking like a mile a minute. And so he just lets me be me. Like, or if I feel like dancing, he loves it. And he sits there and he's very entertained. And like, he's having a good time just watching me dance. So I'm like, oh, I love this. I get to be myself. It's like, I don't have to try, to be something I'm not, or to try to overly please him. It's just a really good balance, because I feel like sometimes people get in relationships, and even like Alan on the show, people get in relationships and they feel like they may have to change themselves for someone to accept them, that it's like, okay, I know for sure that I can be myself in my relationship. So it's just always important to know to be yourself in relationships and friendships. Just always be yourself.
Totally agree. Like be yourself, but also be willing. Like there are things I have no problem changing or working on. It doesn't change who I am as a person. When I got married, I was very much like, I'm going to be who I am. He's going to love me for me. And Chris does love me for me. But there are certain like habits or little things that's like, okay, I can work on this to be a better partner, and it doesn't make me a different person. So I think finding that distinction is also really hard and something that comes with time. You just brought up Alan, but I think Madison and Alan, I always struggle if I like them or not as a couple, but I think Madison is doing a good job of communicating how she feels and what she needs. But I almost wonder, and I don't know if this is happening in a different way than we're seeing, but I wonder if she's doing it so much, like communicating to the point where he feels like he does have to either walk on eggshells or keep a part of him a secret from her because he doesn't want to do something else that will potentially upset her. I mean, I love that she's saying how she feels and not just keeping it in, but when everything you do warrants your partner saying like, oh, I don't like that, or we have to work on that, it's almost like, okay, I'm telling you who I am and you're being honest, but do you like anything about me? So I do feel like there's a line of we can compromise and work on things and be honest with me, but maybe start small. And like his clothes, I agree. I wouldn't be too into his clothing choices, but you can go take him shopping. You can move in together, throw out his clothes, take him shopping, problem solved.
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel like when they were on that little pedal boat and he had on that shirt, she said, "Look at what you're wearing." Like I was at home screaming. She said, "Look at what you have on right now." Oh my gosh. Let's not continue to harp on his swag because he has a great heart. But like you said, Nicole, it's so easy. Like she can go to the mall and get him, a couple of shirts from Zara, H&M, a white shirt, a navy shirt. He can wear it with some khaki shorts. That's easy.
I didn't bring up the swag until Dr. Pia visit. That's only because she asked me.
You didn't do that right away because what are you going to do about it on the honeymoon also, especially since Clint was just wearing Jamaica shirts, so you don't even know his style yet.
But Madison did say she appreciates that Alan knows who he is. She can tell that he's very confident and comfortable with who he is as a man. And I love that too. She said great things about him on the episode. And I love when people can find what they appreciate the most out of someone instead of picking a person apart, So I was like, I love that she's highlighting what she likes about him.
Finding the gold.
The clothes can be very distracting sometimes, but
that can always change.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like save that for when you can do something about it. Don't bring me a problem that I can't solve in this moment. Like, let's talk about the things that we can work on immediately. But, again, to each his own, different communication styles, and theirs are just very different. He seems to be like, I'm just going to take it all on the chin and I'll let you know if you're upsetting me, but I probably won't ever get to that point. And she's like, I don't like this. I do like this. Let's talk about that. Let's not work on this. Like she's very in control of the situation. And I respect that, but I don't know if that's what is working with him. So I think they just need to fine tune that. But again, maybe they are and we're just not seeing it. So I don't know.
They're doing a lot of diary cameras. Like this episode had the most diary cameras I've ever seen. And for people who don't know what a diary camera is, it's a phone that we have and we record whatever's going on like that wasn't captured on camera. So I feel like a lot of the cast on Chicago are like having diary camera moments.
I remember being like excited when I got that phone. I was like, oh, this is cool. By the end of it, I was like, someone get this damn diary cam. Nicole leaving hers at
left it in Maggiano's.
Maggiano's.
We weren't even supposed to be together.
We weren't. We were sneaking out, and then she left the crumbs.
The crumbs. That's hilarious. And they told us, they said, if you lose this, you have to replace it. I was like, oh, I need to keep this very close.
And I was so nervous. Like it's a $3,000 piece of property. It's like probably a couple $100.
I was less concerned about replacing the phone and more about the fact that it doesn't have a lock on it. So this way, because you have to give it to the producer every week so they can upload your footage. So I wasn't concerned about replacing it so much as anyone could open that phone. And the only thing the phone does, it doesn't have like internet or anything, if I remember correctly. It just takes video on this special app. So anyone could open the phone and see all of the things, me getting ready for the wedding, me having the wedding, me meeting the girls. Like they could see everything before the show even got into filming. So that I was nervous about. But I do wish we had a lot of that footage because we would take so many fun diary cams. And now when I look at my personal phone, I'm like, I have 4 pictures from filming because it was all in the diary cam. I was laughing because Camille and Thomas went kayaking and Chris and I went kayaking on the honeymoon. So I'm like, okay, another sign they're going to make it. But trying to figure out the communication there, I'm like, that is an ultimate test, is trying to get a kayak to go straight with someone you don't know. But teamwork, things like that are a great way to learn communication style. So if they do want to hire us, kayaking and putting together furniture that has instructions from another country should be absolute maths activities, because putting together furniture when you can only half understand the instructions shows what kind of communication style you have in a relationship.
Those are great relationship builders. I agree.
I'm laughing at you saying, like, we knew we were going to make it, or they're going to make it because they kayak too. Because I'm like, Clint and I's start was losing our luggage for 5 days and getting like lost on a mountain that we were about to We were going through switchbacks for like 3 hours. We were told we were going like 30 minutes to this waterfall, and it ended up being like 6 hours round trip. We got lost in Jamaica. We were on switchbacks the whole time, feeling like the bus or like the van was literally going to flip off the mountain. Like all the production crew was like, we're going to die. Like this is our time to go. We finally make it to the waterfall and we get to like walk down for 8 minutes and then come back.
The romance.
We're like, what a wreck. But we did learn that we're both very easygoing in that moment. Like the
There you
whole
go.
honeymoon, we were like, we figured out that we could navigate really well, that things don't get under our skin very easily, that we kind of just roll with the punches. We're like, oh, no luggage. All right, we'll just wear Jamaica t-shirt.
Whereas I would have flipped out and Chris would have been calm and I would have been so irritated that he wasn't more upset about it. So not luckily it happened to you, but it's interesting the situations that you're in because we would not have gone that well.
Yeah, we tackle stressful situations with ease. Like both of us realized that very quickly. We were like, okay, we aren't going to have time to get home and change for dinner because this 45-minute trip just turned into 6 hours.
And you were supposed to do the rum tasting that Chris and I ended up having to do because you guys were so delayed. So
we were lost.
You get blamed for me being so drunk and dehydrated and wanting to die on the back of a horse. So thank you.
So
I feel
funny.
like for me, I internalize a lot when things don't go my way. And I try not to project that onto other people. So like when I was at that dirty hotel with the dirty water, like I was definitely like whining about it. But I was like, okay, let me get a hold of myself because it also becomes like you have to be self-aware of like what you're doing and what you're saying. And so like Nicole, when you said you would be irritated, I'm like irritated. And then I'm also like just becoming so upset at the same time. It's like all the emotions are running over me. And I'm like, okay, I just need to go to bed probably and then wake up and I'll feel better. But Shaquille, he was like, you'll be fine. Like he was very easygoing. And I feel like Juan and Carla noticed that about each other as well. When they were on their boat and he fell in the water and she didn't get wet. But it just goes back to like, okay, how is each person handling whatever's happening at hand? And it's good to know. But I like when one partner is able to stay calm, like how Chris is able to stay calm if you're like being irritated about it. It's like, okay, we'll get it figured out. Sometimes in life, I always expect everything to go right. Like I don't ever expect anything to go wrong. That was many years ago. Now I'm able to go with the flow. But like even when my brother and I, when we were in Toronto, I wanted to start crying because nothing was going the right way as planned. Like his luggage was a day late. Like we missed one of the events we were supposed to go to. And then it started raining and it was freezing cold. I'm like, I want to start crying.
I'm like that now. I get like yesterday I was very irritated driving back and forth. And like I was supposed to finish 2 hours earlier than what I thought. And it was just like we added on some people and stuff. And I was like, okay, I have to drive back and change. And it's like 40 minutes one way. So it's like, so it's 2:00 and the wedding starts at 4. So I now I'm going to get home and literally have like 7 minutes to get ready. So I'm like, and I somehow did it. We left a little bit later, get in the car. And this is like how I feel like life always works for me. I hate to not speak that over myself, but the time to get back was 3:59. I was like, oh, perfect. It's going to be like right on the money. I'm always getting like right there. Like, it can't ever just like go smoothly and efficient. And so we were in the car and I was just irritated because I was like, why? And my lash kept poking the inside of my eye. So every time I'd blink, I was getting poked and I was like, I'm over it. I'm over it.
Yeah.
But I drop it fast. Like I'll get irritated. My boyfriend's like, I'm just glad you're not mad at me. I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm like frustrated. I want to get back. I wanted to check the bride's hair before she walked down the aisle. And I was like, and now we're getting there at the exact time, which I did. But we got there at like the exact same time the ceremony started and like just sat down really quick. And I was like, okay, we're good now. So I don't hold on to it, but like I definitely can get frustrated in the moment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if this podcast has taught us nothing else,
we're patient.
Every day it's something. And guys, we got together for 2 hours the other day to try to record in person. And I'm not going to lie to you, I got home and was irritated at the situation because I feel like we put so much effort into this and something always makes it go awry. But I let myself be irritated. Like it was irritating for all of us. So ignoring the fact that it was irritating would be a disservice. So be annoyed. and then just figure out what are the learning lessons and how can we make it better. I'm a control freak and an over preparer. So when I know I'm doing something that I'm not good at or haven't mastered yet, I do all the research. I make lists, I practice, I do trial runs, and I can't prepare for everything. So I feel like when I don't succeed, I'm like, but you literally trained as much as you possibly could. So I definitely give myself that moment to feel irritated, but then I move on because it's like, why is harping on it? It's not going to help. But if you don't feel those feelings, then it just builds up. And then one day you're like, screw this, but we're over it. We're making things happen.
That's entrepreneurship in a nutshell.
It definitely is, Nicole. I just love you and appreciate you so much for all of your hard work. I was like, look at her just screwing those arms on the table. Like, she is her own production team. And I'm like, let me help you. You're like, no, I got it. And we have like all these lights set up. I'm just like, y'all have to see the behind the scenes of what we're really trying to do here.
Well, you can't prepare until you do it wrong. You know what I mean? You don't know until you know. And then you're like, okay, great. I'm going to take this back and try again. So like, that's been my whole business. Like, I'm in this situation and how can I pivot and navigate and do it better? And that's probably why they say that consistency is key, and half of businesses don't make it. Like, this is technically a business. Like, we're doing something, every week. We're meeting, we're planning, we're putting things together. And so it's like 50% of businesses, if not more, fail in the first 5 years because they don't have that consistency. Because it is very frustrating to put all your time and effort like around the clock into something and then to feel like it's consistently failing. You have to change that mindset of like, okay, it's not failing. We're just navigating through figuring out what works and what doesn't, and then preparing better, just making it more efficient as we go. But it's freaking tough.
We're not giving up.
We are not giving up. We are failing forward.
And, the topic of failing forward is just advice to the couples. I know they've already filmed this, so they can't use this advice, but I just hope that all of the couples continue to at least work on what they're working on. Even if it's not working, I just hate to see people give up before they've given it a chance. So hopefully these couples now and in the future, and all couples out there, just keep working through it because, you'll have the hard days, but it's the good days that make the hard days worth it, right?
I agree. I definitely agree. I would say my advice too is wake up and reset yourself, or reset yourself throughout the day as many times as you need to, because then you'll be able to focus on whatever it is at hand. I know for me, that's what I had to do with filming. I had to just wake up and reset myself. Like, whatever happened that day before happened the day before. It's another day. So let's see what the new day brings.
I need to work on that. Resetting every day. Because stress just carries over, it's hard to navigate it. But the experience is so cool, in itself, that like, I still look back and I'm like, I'm thankful that I went through it. I'm thankful that I met you guys. I don't take for granted that I was given that opportunity. So even those that are in couples, I mean, we don't know how their situations ended, but I took so much from my experience on the show and used it in a positive way in my relationship. So it's like, you're in that pressure cooker at the time, and it sucks rewatching back an edited version of yourself, but it's cool to see the growth that can come from it if you allow that.
And not just the couples. Like, I get messages still to this day, and they're my favorite kinds of messages, of people watching the show saying, like, your conversations with Chris have really helped me in my relationship. And I know that I watch other dating marriage shows and I take learning lessons from there. So for everyone watching, it's very easy to get caught up in the entertainment of it, or the judgment, or, falling in love with people falling in love, because that's why we watch these shows. But there are a lot of really great lessons to be learned, even if the couples themselves aren't learning from those lessons. But I think there's a lot of things that we bring into our relationships and friendships that are really beneficial, and listeners and viewers can learn them as well. So you don't necessarily have to be on the show to take away from it.
Indeed.
We love it.
All right, everyone. Well, that's been another episode of D-List Diaries. Thank you for listening. And if you're watching, thank you for watching. Our video will get better week by week. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope everyone enjoys time with their family and friends and gets a chance to reset. Message us on Instagram at D-List Diaries. And don't forget to subscribe so you know when episodes come out. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.